Welcome, fellow bookworms, to Tibra's Den. My name is Whitney, and today is the start of my themed vlog. So today is actually the 3rd of September, and I'm going to be starting this on Saturday, which should be the 7th if I'm thinking correctly. But I wanted to go ahead and get the picks done. So basically for this whole week, it's my birthday week, so I'm going to be reading from Saturday the 7th, if I'm correct, all the way through, I think, the 15th, Sunday the 15th, for my birthday week. And I thought it would be fun if I had the animals choose what I read this week. So I have a whole stack of books. I wasn't originally gonna participate in Aurelium just because it is my birthday month and I didn't want the stress of it. But I had a lot of options for what I wanted to read, and a lot of those, the majority of them fit. I think I added on 6 books, 3 of which I probably would have read anyway. One I wanted to reread. The other 2 is Wisteria just came out, and so Belladonna and Foxglove worked for 2 of the prompts, and I really want to reread the whole series and then read Wisteria. And so those 2 I was already planning on trying to squeeze in anyway. And so it just really worked out. And the ones I added are children's books, so they weren't taking up a lot of time or space. But yeah, I wanted to go ahead and have the animals choose so I can kind of put those books aside and know what I'm reading before that week, and then kind of knowing what I'm already going to be reading for that week. I'm going to try to stick with the Aurelium books that I'm excited for, instead of some of the other extra ones, and I'm going to have the animals choose from them. And I thought, this is just so much fun. I love my animals, and I thought it'd be perfect. So we have 3 cats and 4 dogs. And so yeah, I'm going to have them choose. I have one of the cats already in here, and so I kind of closed the door, locked everybody else out. And so we're going to start with her. Her name is Adalyn, and we'll see what she picks for me first. And like I said, then I will jump back on once it is the 7th and I've read the first book. I just wanted to have them all picked out, show you guys, and then we'll kind of go from there. There's a couple of them. If the animals pick that book, I'm going to read the others that are part of that series or whatever with that book, so there might be some extras as well. But let me go ahead and decide which books I want Adalyn to choose from, and then I will have her do her pick, and I'll just kind of go through the animals, and then I'll come back on afterwards, and I will talk about the books that I'm going to be reading starting on Saturday. All right, we have Adalyn here, and I have the treats. So I'm just going to give her a couple here, and then put the others in a book while she's eating. And she went straight for priest. I kind of fell by her butt, but that's the one she chose. So we're going to go with priest as Adalyn's pick from Sierra Simone. The other options were Hooked by Emily McIntire, and then the Adventures of Amina al-Sirafi by Shannon Chakraborty were her 2 options, but again, she went with Priest. So I'll be back with the next cat. All right, we're back with Sherlock. Give him one here. See which one he goes for. All right, he went with The Shadows Between Us by Tricia Levenseller. So that is Sherlock's pick. His other options were Belladonna by Adalyn Grace and Shark Heart, A Love Story by Emily Habeck. So I'm going to get the next cat, and I'll be right back. All right, we got little Watson. He's a little nervous. Baby. So we'll see if he'll even cooperate. Come on. Alright, he's eating the first ones. So let's see if he turns around. Alright. And he went with Hooked by Emily McIntire. So I did 2 from the 2 previous cats and then 1 new one. So he chose Hooked, which was also in the first round. And then his other 2 options were Heart, A Love Story, and then The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy by Megan Bannen. But he went with Hooked. So now I will be back with the dogs. Alright, now we have my old girl Boo Boo. Come here. Sit. Wait. Stay. Stay. And we're going to see which one she picks. I have the treats in my hand, so we just have to get her to wait. 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 Come here. Release. Alright, she ate the middle one first. I know that was pretty quick, but that is The Adventures of Amina, al-Sirafi by Shannon Chakraborty. I had that against Neon Gods, which is the new one, and Belladonna, which has been in a previous round. I'm going to get the next dog, and I'll be right back. Alright, now we have Marley, and his choices are Inkblood, Sister Scribe, and Heart again, and Undertaking of Heart and Mercy again. Come here, Barbara. Come here. Wait. 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 Release. Alright, he went for the middle one, and that is Heart, A Love Story by Emily Habeck. So I will get the next dog. Alright, now we got Nidra, and her choices are Belladonna again, Finlay Donovan Rolls the Dice by Elle Cosimano, and then Neon Gods by Katee Robert again. Wait. Wait. Release. And went for the middle, so we'll do Finlay Donovan Rolls the Dice. I'll be right back with the last dog. Alright, and the last dog is Anya, and her choices are The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy, Inkblood, Sister Scribe, and then the new choice is Wild Women and the Blues by Denny S. Bryce. Wait. 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 Release. And went for the middle one, so we are going to be reading Inkblood, Sister Scribe by Emma Torzs, and I will be right back to talk about the books. Alright, so the animals picked out the books that they wanted me to read. I try to add 1 new one to each round, but then obviously I have some books that I specifically wanted to read for my birthday month. Or my birthday week, rather. I mean, obviously all the books I'm reading for the month are books I'm really interested in. But the week, I specifically really wanted to do the ones I was excited for, so I was trying to make sure prioritize those and prioritize Aurelium. I do have some that aren't part of Aurelium. They're just books I'm really excited to read. So I did the cats first, then the dogs, but I'm going to be going from oldest to youngest when I'm talking about them, and this is going to be the order I'm going to be reading them in. So Boo Boo, which was the black dog, she is 10, and she'll be 11 the new year, January, is her birthday, so she'll be 11. So she's my old girl, and her pick, the other 2 options that did not win were Belladonna and Neon Gods. And actually neither one of those got chosen by any of the animals, which is a shame because I am excited for both of them. Belladonna is actually part of my Aurelium TBR. Neon Gods isn't, so that's not a huge loss. But I was hoping for Belladonna, but it would also add on all 3 of the books. So that would have been 2 extras, so it's probably better that she didn't. But she ended up choosing The Adventures of Amina, al-Sirafi by Shannon Chakraborty. This is for Aurelium. I have my little Aurelium bookmarks that I'm going to be keeping track of things. And this one I think is for its Conjuration D level, which is a book with a map. Obviously, I need to read the other 2 levels as well, which I definitely will. But yeah, I'm excited for this one. It's perfect for kind of the winding down of summer, getting into autumn. It's a piratey book, and I just think it works really well. And so it says, Amina al-Sirafi should be content. After a storied and scandalous career as one of the Indian Ocean's most notorious pirates, she survived backstabbing rogues, vengeful merchant princes, several husbands, and one actual demon to retire peacefully with her family to a life of piety, motherhood, and absolutely nothing that hints of the supernatural. But when she's tracked down by the obscenely wealthy mother of a former crewman, she's offered a job no bandit could refuse. Retrieve her comrade's kidnapped daughter for a kingly sum. The chance to have one last adventure with a crew, do right by an old friend, and win a fortune that will secure her family's future forever? It seems like such an obvious choice that it must be God's will. Yet the deeper Amina dives, the more it becomes alarmingly clear there is more to this job and the girl's disappearance than she was led to believe. For there's always a risk in wanting to become a legend, to seize one last chance at glory, to savor just a bit more power, and the price might be your very soul. So I'm super excited for this one. And so Boo Boo did a good job picking it. Next up is Marley, and the two he did not choose is The Undertaking of Hart and Mercy by Megan Bannen and Inkblood Sister Scribe by Emma Torzs. But that's okay. He chose Shark Heart, A Love Story by Emily Habeck, and this is another one for Aurelia. This is for my herbology calling, and this is Alchemy, and it was an emotional book. And I'm really intrigued by this one. So it says, for Lewis and Ren, their first year of marriage is also their last. A few weeks after their wedding, Lewis receives a rare diagnosis. He will retain most of his consciousness, memories, and intellect, but his physical body will gradually turn into a great white shark. As Lewis develops the features and impulses of one of the most predatory creatures in the ocean, his complicated artist's heart struggles to make peace with his unfulfilled dreams. At first, Ren internally resists her husband's fate. Is there a way for them to be together after Lewis changes? Then a glimpse of his developing carnivorous nature activates long-repressed memories for Ren, whose story alternates between her childhood living on a houseboat in Oklahoma, her time with a college ex-girlfriend, and her unusual friendship with a woman pregnant with twin birds. Woven throughout this bold novel is the story of Ren's mother, Angela, who became pregnant with Ren at 15 in an abusive relationship amid her parents' crumbling marriage. In the present, all of Ren's grief eventually collides, and she is forced to make an impossible choice. A sweeping love story that is at once lyrical, funny, airy, and visceral. Sharkheart is an unforgettable novel about life's perennial questions, the fragility of memories, finding joy amidst grief, and creating a meaningful life. This daring debut marks the arrival of a widely talented new writer, abounding with imagination, humor, and heart. So, and it's really funny that they picked these two, because Boo Boo is my wild child. She's always on the go, very interested in what's going on, what's happening, just very go, 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 go. And I think that her personality fits this one really well. And Barley's my sensitive boy, so I think this one fits him very well as well. Next is the first cat you guys saw, which is Adalyn, and her options were between Hooked, the Amina al-Sirafi, and then Priest, which is the one she picked, and this is also an Aurelian book. So this is the other alchemy book, so this is for Q, and this one is it was a book that had been originally self-published and then was traditionally published, and this one, as far as what I could find and tell, was originally self-published and then was picked up traditionally. And I'm intrigued by this one, and this one again kind of fits Adalyn. We're always joking that she's, trying to take your soul and such, so I think this one kind of fits. And it says, he's a priest, and here's his confession. There are many rules a priest can't break. A priest cannot marry. A priest cannot abandon his flock. A priest cannot forsake his God. Tyler Bell has no has had no problem playing by the rules for the past 3 years, after a family tragedy set him on the path to priesthood. That all changes when the delicious, sultry voice of Poppy Danforth sinks its claws in him through the screen of his confessional booth, and he can't get her sins out of his head. It should be easy to put his impure thoughts of her to rest, considering the vows Tyler has taken. It should be nothing to overcome what the sight and sound of her does to him, when his life with the church means everything. But once he has his first forbidden taste of those red lips, Tyler can't help but break all his rules for Poppy, no matter what it might cost them both. So, really been interested in trying this one for a while, so I'm excited it got chosen. Like I said, it does kind of fit Adalyn. The next oldest would be Sherlock. He's one of the black cats, and his options were Hart, Belladonna, which again, Belladonna did not get chosen, and then The Shadows Between Us, and this is going to be a twofer because it's a duology, so I'm going to read both books. And this one, The Shadows Between Us, is for Aurelium. The second one, which is The Darkness Within Us, is not. It's just an extra book, and these are by Tricia Levenseller. And this one is for Spells and Incantation, a 5-star prediction. And so this is about two sisters. In the first one, it says, Alessandra is tired of being overlooked, but she has a plan to gain power. Woo the Shadow King, marry him, kill him, and take his kingdom for herself. No one knows the extent of the freshly crowned Shadow King's power. Some say he can command the shadows that swirl around him to do his bidding. Others say they speak to him, whispering the thoughts of his enemies. Regardless, Alessandra knows what she deserves, and she's going to do everything within her power to get it. But Alessandra is not the only one trying to kill the king. As attempts on his life are made, she finds herself trying to keep him alive long enough for him to make her his queen, all the while struggling not to lose her heart. After all, who's better for a Shadow King than a cunning, villainous queen? And Sherlock definitely thinks he's a king, so again, kind of fits his personality. He's always kind of lording over the food bowls. We always have to kind of get on him because he'll kind of block the other cats when they're trying to jump up to get to him. Once they're up, he doesn't like push them away or anything, but whenever another cat's eating, he's eating too. So he's definitely kind of the king. He thinks he is anyway. So really excited to read those two. I absolutely love Tricia Levenseller's writing. One of my favorites. Next, we had Watson, who is Sherlock's little buddy, of course, and his choices were between The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy, Hart, and Hooked was the one he picked. And so for that one, that's by Emily McIntire. And this one was for lore, and it was retelling. And this is, again, D level, so I'm definitely going to have to make sure I read the other two books for this to count for Aurelium. But this is based on Peter Pan. And it says, he wants his revenge, but he wants her more. James has always had one agenda, destroy his enemy, Peter Michaels. When Peter's 20-year-old daughter, Wendy, shows up in James' bar, he sees his way in. Seduce the girl and use her for his revenge. It's the perfect plan until things in James's organization begin to crumble. Suddenly he has to find the traitor in his midst, and his plan for revenge gets murkier as James starts to see Wendy as more than just a pawn in his game. Wendy has been cloistered away most of her life by her cold, wealthy father, but a spontaneous night out with friends turns into an intense and addictive love affair with the dark and brooding James. As much as she knows James is dangerous, Wendy can't seem to shake her desire for him. But as their relationship grows more heated and she learns more about the world he moves in, she finds herself unsure if she's falling for the man known as James or the monster known as Hooked. So I'm really excited for this. Another one I've been interested in for a while. And it does kind of fit little Watson since it's based on Peter Pan. He's he's very small compared to the other cats. And so he's more like, and he's very active and very playful. So kind of more that kitten energy. And so I think that fits his personality as well. And then we had Nina's, which her name is Nidra. And her options were between Neon God and Belladonna. Again, neither one of those got picked. which is fine. She decided to go with one which is not on my Aurelium TBR at all, and that is Finlay Donovan Rolls the Dice. This is the 4th book in the Finlay Donovan series by Elle Cosimano. And yeah, I got this back in March when we went to Vegas. I wanted to get it because I thought the themes fit Vegas, and this would be a perfect little souvenir. It has all my Vegas souvenirs in there with it. But this is not part of Aurelium or anything, but it is one I really want to get read. And it does kind of fit Nidra. It's goofy, it's fun, kind of chaotic. And yeah, I'm excited about this one. So Finlay Donovan, I'm not going to read this synopsis just in case it spoils anything, but Finlay Donovan is a single mom and a struggling writer. And in the first book, she's talking to her agent about her book, and somebody overhears her and thinks she's a killer for hire and slips her a note. Things kind of take off from there, like unfold, and there's like mob involved and her ex-husband, and each book is just kind of continuing on, and I am really excited for this one. So there's that one. And then lastly, we had Anya, which is our young girl. I think how old is she now? She gonna be 4 this year, I think. And this one, her options were The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy. Again, that one did not get picked, obviously. Wild Women and the Blues, which I was kind of hoping she would go for that one. I didn't. And then Ink Blood Sister Scribe by Emma Torzs. And the only one that was part of Aurelium was The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy. Obviously, that didn't get picked. So this one is just an extra one that I was just been really interested in reading. I found it at the used bookstore and I was like, sweet. And so yeah, I'm excited for this one. And I think this one fits because her and Nidra are very sisterly. And so I think it really fits. And so it says, for generations, the Katee family has guarded a collection of ancient and rare books that let a person walk through walls or manipulate the elements, books of magic that half-sisters Joanna and Esther have been raised to revere and protect. All magic comes with a price, though, and for years the sisters have been separated. Esther has fled to a remote base in Antarctica to escape the fate that killed her mother, and Joanna has isolated herself in their family home in Vermont, devoting her life to the study of these cherished volumes. But after their father dies suddenly while reading a book Joanna has never seen before, the sisters must reunite to preserve their family legacy. In the process, they'll uncover a world of magic far bigger and more dangerous than they ever imagined, and all the secrets their parents kept hidden, secrets that span centuries, continents, and even other libraries. In the great tradition of Ninth House, the Magicians, and Practical Magic, this is a suspenseful and richly atmospheric novel that draws readers into a vast world with mystery, magic, romance, and intrigue, and marks the debut of an extraordinary new voice in speculative fiction. So I'm really excited. I think this is such a great stack, and I like kind of my plan to start with the oldest animals pick and work my way down to the youngest, because I like the way that the week's gonna play out. That's obviously a lot of reading for 1 week. If it spills over into the next week a little bit, I'm completely fine with that. We'll just see how it goes, but we have, the 7 animals plus an extra, so that's 8 books, which is a lot for 1 week, but I think some of these will read pretty fast. Like, I know the Finlay Donovan one reads fast. I think Priest and Hook will both read fast, and probably Tricia Levenseller as well. And so I'm fairly confident I can do it within the week, but we'll just have to see, especially because on the 13th, 13 is a lucky number, and I love Friday the 13th, so my husband's going to take the day off work, and we're going to celebrate on Friday the 13th, because it's a lucky day for me. I always love Friday the 13th, And so it's going to be a lot of fun. So I won't have a lot of time to read that specific day. So I'll have to kind of get some extra reading in on one of the other days. But yeah, those are the books. So this is just, of course, the intro, and I will hop on after I finish each book and share my thoughts with you guys. So it will be just a moment for you, and it'll be a little bit longer for me because I'm not even going to get started until Saturday, and today is Tuesday the 3rd. So I still have a little bit before I can get started on these, but I might try to read some of the other Aurelian books that will make sure I get those read for the D grades. So anyway, be right back in just a moment for you guys. All right, it is Tuesday the 10th, about noon. I did start reading on Saturday, kind of late evening, but of course I started with Boo Boo's Choice. Boo Boo's my old girl. She's, like I said, I think she'll be 11 in January. So she's still very spry though. Loves life, has such a zest for life, like always very inquisitive, always into everything. Kind of a difficult dog if I'm being honest, but I love her to pieces. She was originally going to be a foster. Um, I went into Walmart where I live, and when I went in, there was these people walking around with this puppy, and they asked me, and I was like, no, I have enough dogs. Like, no. Went in, was in there for probably a half an hour or so, come back out, they're still walking around with this puppy, no food, no water. And so I thought, I worked at the vet clinic at the time, I thought, I'll take her, I'll get her vaccinations, get her spayed, and then find her home. And I just fell in love with her. Like, she is a very unique, as far as personality goes. Um, she's gonna go wander around. But yeah, I absolutely love her. And she actually picked a book that really fit her personality quite well. She picked The Adventures of Amina al-Sirafi by Shannon Chakraborty. And I ended up loving this one. It was a little bit slow to start, and I did struggle a little bit with it. But once it kind of picked up, I found it interesting, but I wasn't really all that into it until about halfway through, and it started picking up, and then I absolutely loved it. I kind of got used to the writing style. It's kind of unique. Amina is telling her story to a scribe, but the scribe is writing it in her words, so it's first person, but then the scribe will kind of interject occasionally, just kind of more background, and then also, like, as she's telling her story, like, the scribe, she'll say something to the scribe itself. So it's kind of a little bit of a unique format, but it's a lot of fun. You have, of course, pirates and sea creatures, and they're searching for, like, this mythological treasure, and there's a lot of, like, religion in here. There's different types of religion. There's, like, Muslim and Christianity and such, and how that kind of plays together as well, because some of her crewmates and friends are of different religions. There's also LGBTQIA plus rep. There is a gay character, and then also a trans character. And yeah, it's just, I really, really enjoyed this. Like I said, it did take me a minute to get into it, but once I really got into it, I loved it. Had such a great time. I read, like I said, I started it pretty late on Saturday, so I only read about 70 pages then, and then I read a good chunk on Sunday, and then I finished it up yesterday. It kind of took me all day to read yesterday, but I am also reading the Heartland series while I'm doing this. I'm trying to read one of these a day, and so that's part of it as well, because I would read this first thing in the morning and then switch over to these. And Saturday I had a couple other books to finish up as well, but yeah, I adored this. Boo Boo made a good choice, and like I said, it really fit her personality, kind of that adventure and such. And I really liked that Amina is she's in her 40s. She says she's middle age. I don't really consider 40s middle age. I would consider 50s middle age, but she's a middle-aged woman, and she has an injury, so she's not the spryest. I really like that. I liked kind of dark undertone combined with the humor and the lightness in this book. I thought that was a lot of fun, like her friends and the way they kind of banter. And then there's a demon in here as well, and kind of that relationship with Amina. I really liked kind of the way they played off of each other. And you also get like there's something with the history of this crew. Her main ones. There's 3 main crewmates. The others are all new to her, and then the demon, and they all have history together. And so I really like that. There's blackmail, there's class bias, and then kind of the would it be colonization or just kind of religious wars and such? So there is a lot of depth to this one. And yeah, Boo Boo did good. She did absolutely wonderful. I can see myself rereading this. I know it's supposed to be, I think, a trilogy. And so far, like, there's no information on the next one that I found, like, on Goodreads. It's just kind of blank, and untitled. 2 and 3 are untitled. So I don't know when we're going to get another one, but I hope it's soon because I adored this and I would love to go back into that world. But I absolutely love this one. So we started off the week good. Definitely gave that 5 stars. Had a fantastic time. Like I said, I am reading the Heartland books. So right now it's almost noon on Tuesday the 10th. I already read this one this morning. So I'm a day behind, but I'm not too concerned about that because there's 25 of them. So I'll still have like that last week to catch up on any that I'm behind on. So I love that. And then my sister also sent me Monstrilio by Gerardo Samano Cordova. I had mentioned she was looking for book recommendations. I was like, I haven't read it, but I've heard really great things and I'm really interested in reading it. And so she sent this to me for my birthday. So I've been working on that as well. It was so hard. This is kind of my bedtime read because it's literary horror. So I'm like, I'd rather read this at night. And so I've been reading this at night before I go to sleep. And it is so good. But yeah, it's definitely a little weird, deals a lot with grief. Basically, this woman, her son dies and she takes a piece of his lung and then she starts nurturing the lung and it grows into Monstrilio. So my sister absolutely loved it. She's like, I would love to have somebody to talk about this with. And so she sent it to me for my birthday and I've been enjoying it. I don't think I'll finish it tonight, not with the reads I'm doing this week. That's quite a lot of reading to do, but I definitely plan on continuing tonight, and I'm hoping I can do like half of what's left tonight and then finish it up tomorrow. So I am reading, like I said, the Heartland series and then working on this as well this week. The Heartland series, they're short, less than 200 pages, young adult books. And so I've been really enjoying. So far, I'm still on my rereads, and I haven't gotten into any of the new books yet, but I'm really looking forward to that. So the next book we will be reading is going to be Shark Heart: A Love Story by Emily Habeck. And the next oldest dog is Marley, and he's the one that picked this. So I'll be back with my thoughts once I finish this one up. Alright, we are back. It is, what is today? I think, Wednesday the 11th, I want to say? I don't know. It's early in the morning. This is Marley. So Marley was also a foster. I mean, initially, like Boo Boo. But he was an actual foster where Boo Boo I just had planned to foster her. The others want in. And so he came to me for training because he was super hyper bonded to his sibling, completely terrified of people. You walk up to him and you just start peeing and pooping. Like, he was completely terrified. So he came to me for training, and I plan on just keeping him, getting him comfortable around people. And it took him a long, like, years. We're talking years. And even like with my husband, he's still a little weird, and I just couldn't do that to him. I know I could have found him a good home, but he got so comfortable with me, and I just couldn't do that to him. So I ended up keeping him, and he has his little hidey holes. Like when I'm at the computer, he shoves himself, this 65-pound 70-pound boy shoves himself underneath my computer and he hides there, or if I'm in the recliner, he hides underneath the recliner leg, or lift, whatever you want to call it. If we're eating dinner, he's under the table. But when he's feeling confident and happy, he's a big goofball, like completely goofy. And we absolutely love him. Boo Boo likes to pick on him a little bit, takes out her frustrations on him, so we always have to get after her about that. But he's just so laid back, he doesn't even care. So he's a good boy. But he had picked Shark Cart, a love story by Emily Habeck, for me. And a little hard for me to get into this one. I don't typically like chapters that are super short. I have a hard time with books like that, and that's definitely this. Like, there's some chapters that are a couple pages, but for the most part, they're like 1, maybe 2 pages. Some of them are just a paragraph, some of them just a sentence. And so it's really short and choppy. And then there's also, in the beginning, it kind of goes back and forth from present day to Ren's childhood. And so, because the chapters are so short, and then in combination with that, it kind of took me a bit, but once it kind of got going and I really got into the story, I absolutely loved this, and the format of it really did work for the story. And so initially you're following Ren and her husband Lewis, and Lewis, in this world, humans can mutate into animals, and so it's like a medical condition, and Lewis has one of the rarest forms of mutation, which is to mutate into a great white shark. And it's also one of the most dangerous ones. And so Ren also has a lot of like trauma from her mom in childhood. And so initially she was never interested in getting married or anything like that. So it was kind of a big step for her to get married. And then Lewis gets diagnosed with this disease right after they get married. And so Ren is struggling. Lewis is struggling. Like, Lewis is a kind of an upbeat, positive person. He's a theater teacher. He tried to make it in theater and couldn't do it, so he came back to Texas to teach. And yeah, so he's struggling, she's struggling, and it's kind of their marriage and them processing this disease. And that first part, the ending of that first part hit me hard. I was crying, like, and I didn't really expect that from, especially in the beginning. I'm like, okay, this is weird, it's quirky, but I did not expect to actually cry. And this was for alchemy, for herbology, and it was to read in a book that would make you emotional, and this definitely did. So it hit hard, and it's not about him turning into a shark. It's really grief and loss, and them having to process this disease and losing each other, and it's absolutely heartbreaking. And I loved it. And then it kind of goes, and you're following Ren's mother, and kind of a little bit about her childhood, and then how, she came to have Ren, and then what happened there. So you're following that, and then you kind of see a little bit of the aftermath from both Lewis and then Ren's perspective towards the end. So yeah, it is really good. Like I said, it did take me a minute to get into it, but once I did, and like I said, I haven't cried like that over a book for quite a while, so it definitely hit hard. Absolutely loved it. Obviously a 5-star read for me. So there is that one. And so today we are going to be reading the first cat's pick, and Marley is going to be 10. Him and Adalyn are the same age, and that's the cat. And they'll turn 10 in March. So they're a little bit older too, but she picked Priest by Simone. And so this is going to be what I'm tucking in today. I hope this is going to be really, really fast, and I can get it read today and start on one of the other books for the next pick today as well. And that way I can kind of get a little bit ahead, because there's one extra book. So I would need to read at least one book a day, and then plus one extra to make it work, but I would love to get a little bit ahead. So I would love to read 2 books today and then 2 books tomorrow, which I think is doable based on what's coming up. And then I would have the weekend for the last 2 books, but we'll just see how it goes. But yeah, I'm going to be working on this today, and I'm going to be snuggling the pups. Marley's going to be under my chair like normal, I'm sure. But I'm going to go ahead and get to it, and I will be back to check in once I finish this. Alright, it is the morning of Thursday, the 12th, and we have Fradaline here. She's the one that picked Priest by Simone, and I did finish this late last night. It did take me actually all day to read it. But a little bit more about Fradaline. She's the same age as Marley. They'll both be 10 in March. And yeah, when I got her, I didn't plan on getting any more cats. I didn't want any more cats. I had one. And I'm definitely more of a dog person than a cat person. But I used to work at a shelter, or at a vet clinic, and they ran the city shelter. And so the cats would be brought to us for feline leukemia and feline AIDS testing. And so they brought her over, and she was just all tucked in a little ball in the carrier. And I just absolutely fell in love with her. And so she wants to escape. But we're talking about you. And so yeah, I couldn't say no to this cute little face. And it's was kind of fun because I worked at the vet clinic. Like, we had all her old records, and I had helped spay her. She is declawed. We did do that at the clinic. I don't agree with declawing at all, but she is declawed. And yeah, she was an owner surrender. I don't know why she was surrendered, but I do know after I adopted her, the owner actually came back wanting her back. And I was like, I almost did, but then I was like, no. Like, I don't know why she surrendered her, but what's to say she won't surrender her again in the future? And it was like 2 weeks. And so I was like, I told the shelter worker no, like, she didn't give any of my information, like, oh, well, she works next door or anything like that. And the lady was like, oh, well, she'll be back, she bites. And she's only tried to bite me one time, and that was when I had eaten a bowl of cereal and I was drinking the milk, and she grabbed the bowl and I pulled it away from her, and she tried to bite me, like, and I told her no. And she's never, occasionally, like, when we do her back nails, because she still has her back nails, she'll try to bite a little bit, but past that, she's never tried to bite at all. And yeah, so that is Fradaline. I'm going to go ahead and let her go now, because she's kind of a weird cat. Like, a lot of cats are like this, so I guess it's not that weird, but she wants attention and affection on her terms. She doesn't really, like, I can hold the boys, no problem. But her, like, no, she wants to lay on me, but she doesn't want me necessarily to hold her. She's fine with her head, but she's really sensitive as far as, like, you petting her back at all. She gets really twitchy and hates that. So, and yeah, Fraulein, this book kind of fits for her. One, we always joke that she's gonna suck our souls out, because she's definitely a queen bee type of cat. But we always just joke that she's gonna suck our souls. So that kind of goes along with the religion thing. But also, her and I have a love-hate relationship, and I had a love-hate relationship with this book. She's very demanding cat, and very vocal. And that just really gets under my skin. If her food bowl is old at all, she's meowing. She's like, give me fresh food. If I'm in the bedroom longer than she thinks I should be, she's meowing. And we have our bedroom door, and then we also have a bathroom door, our ensuite bathroom. There's also a door there that goes out into, like, the laundry room, mudroom area, and she'll go back and forth between each door, just meowing, trying to get me to come out. If I have a day where I'm, like, out and about, or I'm on the computer working and not sitting in my chair where I'm reading and she can lay on me, she's meowing at me. Like, she gets very upset. She wants me in my chair where she can lay on my lap, and she doesn't want me to pet her, she just wants to lay on my lap. Which I get. I'm kind of the same way. Like, I want that interaction, but I don't, So yeah, we're kind of frenemies. She's so vocal and she's so demanding. It really gets under my skin sometimes, but I absolutely adore her. And when she's all snuggled up on me, she's the sweetest thing. But let's go ahead and talk about this book now. So this is not my first time reading Sierra Simone. I did read, I think it's a Merry Little Meet Cute that she did with Julie Murphy. I did read that one. Well, I listened to it. And but other than that, this is like my first time actually reading this author. And I was interested. I was like, the priest premise could go either way, especially considering this is kind of smut, more taboo romance. I was like, it could kind of go either way. And yeah, I found some parts interesting. Cause I kind of like when I read like dark romance or more taboo things, I kind of like the psychology behind it. And you got some of that, but not like, I think like the smut part was fine. That was fine, but it's almost like she went too overboard on that. Like, oh, I have to make this like that shock value. And it was just too much. And so it went past just like smutty and taboo and dark to kind of just distasteful. And I really didn't feel like it honored the character. Like I kind of see why the author made those choices, but for me, it didn't really feel like she was honoring the characters at all. Either one of them. So you have Tyler and Poppy. Tyler's a priest. He's not like this was something his vocation for his whole life. This is something he wanted to do his whole life. There was a tragedy in his family, so it does deal with suicide. Keep that in mind, and it kind of deals with like the abuse of priests. And so there was a tragedy in his family with his sister and their priest, and then the parish where he's preaching had a scandal with their priest as well. That was, obviously these priests were abusing children. And so you kind of have that as a play off of. And I wish the author had done a little bit more to that. I felt like she just added that to make Tyler have this big calling, like this big, oh, this is what I need to do with my life. But she didn't really do anything with it. And so it was just frustrating a little bit. And then, like, the way the events play out, nothing happens. Like, this is supposed to be his big calling, and then nothing happens. And so it was really kind of frustrating in that aspect. Like, again, like, he wants to do this to show, like, that not all priests are bad and make a change in, like, the priesthood and such. And just nothing really came of that. And also Tyler is into like certain kinks and whatnot. Like he wasn't always going to be a priest, so he has experience and whatnot before he took his vows and such. And he's just into certain darker things. And so again, I kind of see like that duplicity, but there's certain scenes where again, it just felt like she did it for the smutty aspect and the shock value, and it didn't feel true. Like, I could see him, having these darker urges and giving into them and whatnot. But there's certain things where it was like, I don't see even a priest struggling with, like, his more carnal impulses or whatever. I just don't see a priest who loves God and what he's doing these certain things. Like, and even like at one point, I'm trying not to spoil it, but I'm gonna probably spoil a little bit. So there is a scene with the altar, and that one was where it really got like, this is just distasteful. Like, this isn't smutty. It's not like, oh, he was so overcome with passion. Like, he made a choice. And it's like, and really, he's almost 30. He lacks that much control. He can't, walk somewhere else a few feet away or something. Like, it was a choice. And then there's some things that go along with that where he's using like items that he uses that are more sacred and such. And that was just like, okay, I just don't see like even a priest giving into his more carnal desires and like his darker nature. I didn't think it was very tasteful. I had no problem with it being a priest and like the things they were doing in the church and such like that, but there was just certain things where I just think the author took it a little too far. And like I said, it was just more for that smut and shock value than, and like I said, based on how Tyler is, I just didn't think like it was real to the character. I think he would have had a little bit more respect, like especially with how he was struggling with just even being attracted to and starting a relationship with her and sleeping with her and such. I just think he would have shown a little bit more respect. And Tyler himself is just whiny and like you should see my review on Goodreads of Storygraph. Like it's so fucking long. It's just so frustrating. Like he was just whiny and like yeah, he had darker desires, but he also would do toxic things and then just be like realize, oh well, I know this is a toxic and I know it makes me an asshole, but kind of like, well, I know I'm doing this and I know it's wrong, so I'll just ask for forgiveness and like, and it'll be fine. And it's like, no. Like, it's toxic, it's wrong. Like, again, you're 30 fucking years old, like, control yourself. And he was just whiny, and it just was very repetitive as far as the conflict goes. Like, and I get that struggle is going to be throughout, but it was almost like it was the same manifestation of it over and over again instead of like that struggle kind of progressing as their feelings grew. It was very same like towards the end of the book as it was at the beginning of the book. And then we have Poppy, and I really don't like how the author portrayed, made the choices Poppy made. I didn't think it fit the character because in the beginning Poppy is very open and honest, and she's talking to him about her past. She's used to be a stripper at a high-end club. I mean, there's more to her than that because she was, also from a wealthy family, good education and all that, and then she ran off and started being a stripper at this high-end club. But like when she's talking in the beginning, like she's very open and honest. It's like, and I don't feel guilty about it. Like there's only one thing she feels guilty about that caused her to kind of end up in this town. But the rest of it, she doesn't feel guilty about. Like, she's like, it may be a sin. And she has no experience with religion, but she's very open and honest. And then in her relationship with Tyler, because he has those darker desires, and she's like, but he doesn't want, again, this kind of played into the situation with his sister and the previous priest where he's preaching. And he doesn't want to take advantage, but it's like, it's a different situation. You're two consensual adults. Like, yeah, you took vows that you weren't going to do this, but at the end of the day, you're two consensual adults, both attracted to each other. It's a completely different situation. But you see his struggle with that, and because he likes it rough, he doesn't want to, treat her in a certain way. And she explains to him, but I want this. Like, I'm consenting to this. I want this. And she's very clear about that. But then, because he's struggling and then she's struggling, and I wish it's all told from Tyler's point of view. There's some where Poppy's giving confession. That's like her words, but you're still not really getting her thought process or anything like that. And I think I would have enjoyed this more if we did have the point of view from Poppy as well, not just Tyler. And so yeah, so you don't really see her thought processes behind the decisions she's making, but basically when things happen and she feels like, oh, this is wrong, we shouldn't be together, you could lose your job, like blah blah blah, she basically goes no contact. And that's where I really didn't feel like it honored the character, because she is very honest and very upfront. And so I really like, yeah, she's struggling, and then in the end it kind of brings back they're having a conversation and she's like, I tried to tell you but you didn't listen. But it's like, but I was reading that you like, yeah, you said, but you were kind of wishy-washy about it. Like you didn't like, not how blunt you are about like the rough stuff, like I don't know. I just didn't think the way Poppy went about things felt true to the character the author initially created. And it was also, again, very immature, very toxic. And she does something that is like, yeah, that was a choice. And again, I think the author just kind of went for like shock value, and kind of, oh, well, if I do this, then the plot can go this way. And yeah, I ended up giving it 3 stars. I like, the writing style itself. It was very easy to get into. I did like some of the characters. Like there's this little lady, and she's just like, she knows, and she's just like, hey, like, you are a man. Like, yes, you are a priest, but you're also a man. And so yeah, I don't know. I found this, again, it's not the content, it's not the smut, it's not the taboo-ness of it. It's just the certain choices the author made that I think did a disservice to the story and to these characters. I am going to keep this though, because I did, like I said, I kind of had moments where you kind of got to see that psychology and that struggle, and I enjoyed that. And like I said, the writing was easy. I actually already ordered the second one because I wanted the next Throne of Glass book, and I want the original cover, so I was looking for a used copy, and I found one with the original covers that wasn't, being overcharged, because people are charging like $30 for the original covers, which it irks me. Like, it really does. Like, I get they're popular and such, but the book is not worth that. So anyway, I found one that was for a reasonable price, but they were doing buy 2 books get 1 free. And so I found 2 other used books that I was interested in, and Sinner was one of them. So I do have the next one coming. I'll see if I get along with that. It's a nun. It's Tyler's brother and a nun. So we'll see if I get along with that one anymore. But yeah, I was just a little bit frustrated. This was for alchemy again. It was for a book that was previously self-published and then picked up traditionally, which when I saw on the internet, like, who knows if it's actually true, but I saw that this one was, so I'm assuming it was correct, and that's what I used for that. But yeah, just a little disappointed by this. So this is my first 3 stars. The other 2 have gotten 5 stars so far. But next up is Sherlock's pick, which this is going to be a 2-for-1. He picked The Shadows Between Us by Tricia Levenseller. And then I'm going to go ahead and read the sequel, which is The Darkness Within Us, because I'm just really excited for these. These I picked up as an early birthday present for myself back in August, I think it was. And yeah, I love Tricia Levenseller's writing. Her Bladesmith duology is one of my favorites from last year. Like, I think Blade of Secrets was my top read of last year, and so I'm really excited to read more from this author. This one is for my necromancy calling. This is Spells and Incantations O level, and it is 5-star prediction, I believe, because like I said, I love Tricia Levenseller, and I have a feeling this is going to be a 5-star prediction. So I'm gonna jump into these. I'm gonna try to get both of them read today, because tomorrow I'm going to the bigger town to celebrate my birthday. It's not my birthday yet, but I love Friday the 13th. Like, 13 is a lucky number for me, and I absolutely love Friday the 13th. And so I was like, it's a Friday the 13th this year. I want to go and celebrate on the 13th. And so I'm going to go down there. My husband's supposed to be trying to get the day off. We'll see if it actually happens. Some things are going on at work, so we'll see. But he's going to try to get the day off so we can celebrate then. But if not, I think I'm still going to go down and do some book shopping. Like, I'd rather do it with him, but we'll just see. So anyway, I do want to get both of these read. They're not super, super long. So we'll see. I think just over 300 pages. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm gonna go tuck into these, and then I will check back in with you when I get these read. Alright, it is now Sunday, the 15th, so definitely lost a few days, but we have Sherlock here. He picked The Shadows Between Us, and then I also read the sequel, The Darkness Within Us, which love those. But a little bit more about Sherlock. So we got him and his little buddy Watson, who you'll meet next clip. We got them when my husband and I were still dating. The veterinary clinic where I worked ran the city shelter, and they were just inundated with cats, like they were over full. And so I was like, hey, we should, pick out a cat, a little kitten. And there was two black cats we were looking at. I wanted Sherlock here because he was sitting there. He had his little collar and his little bell, and he was just sitting there all prim and proper. And then my husband wanted a little Watson, who was like climbing the cage. And so it's like, you know what? They both need homes. The shelter's overly full, so let's take both of them. First, we were just going to test them out and see which one we wanted to keep, but obviously we kept both of them. And yeah, Sherlock is very calm, kind of lazy. Like, it's hard to even get him to play. Like, he'll play a little bit, but he doesn't really exert himself at all. Um, and he guards the food bowl, which really worked for the books I read with him because there was, like, especially in the first one, excuse Boo Boo out there. In the first one, there was a lot of, like, eating, like, food was a big thing, and he is a big foodie. Anytime the other cats are eating, he has to go over there and eat too. We have to kind of get on him because he tries to. We have the cat food and the cat litter and such in our like laundry mudroom area, and we have a baby gate going across to keep the dogs out. And so he'll kind of gatekeep is what we call it, and he's just always about the food life. And yeah, he has a weird thing with feet. I call it. Tell him no, have a freaky foot fetish, but he likes to rub on our feet and lick them, which creeps me out. But he really likes feet. But other than that, he's pretty laid back, pretty chill. Occasionally, he's the biggest cat in the house, and he does occasionally use his weight to kind of pin the others down. Not very often, but he's definitely a little bit of a bully. But we love him. We love him, and we always joke that he bamboozled me because he was sitting there so cute, and now he's kind of the biggest bully in the house. And yeah, he is 8, and he's 2 months older than little Watson. So they're not from the same litter or anything. He's a couple months older, but they're both, around the same age. So anyway, I'm gonna let him go wander off and do what he wants to. And let's talk about the actual books he picked. So we did The Shadow Between Us, which was for Spells and Incantation, which was a 5-star prediction, and it definitely was. And then, like I said, I knew I wanted to read the sequel right away. I got these as kind of an early birthday present for myself. And so I did start on Friday, but Friday we went into town to celebrate my birthday just because I love Friday the 13th. I love the number 13. And I really didn't want to go on the weekend or anything like that. And so my husband had some work things to do first day, and then we kind of drove around to different stores, got lunch, and got some ice cream, and it was really great day. And then when we got home, I logged the books I had gotten, and then I also had gotten like a little Lego set, and so I did that, and so it was kind of a chill evening. So I didn't get started on this one until later, but then I just absolutely loved it and flew through it. So in this first one, you have Alessandra, who is the second daughter of, I don't remember what his title is, but a nobleman. And so her sister has finally been married. They have kind of a contentious relationship. And so she's able to go out into society now. And so she goes and she catches the eye of the Shadow King, and she has plans to assassinate him, but here is already threats on his life, and obviously she doesn't want to assassinate him before she becomes queen, because then she doesn't get anything out of it essentially. So she's trying to help save him, and it's kind of a fake dating situation because his council members, he has no intention of ever courting, marrying, anything like that. But obviously his council members want him to, but there's kind of a magic with their family line, and so in order to do that, it makes him vulnerable. And the magic is really interesting. I really like the shadow magic in this. But yeah, so they're fake courting, but food is a big thing with them. They both like to eat like their desserts first and such. And they're both very kind of morally gray. Like he's a king, but he's, obviously trying to conquer other kingdoms and such. And they were just really interesting characters. But this author, everything I've read from her, I've absolutely loved. There's just like a couple that I haven't read that I still need to. But the main series I read the Daughter of the Pirate Queen / Siren Queen, and then her Bladesmith duology. I read that. But I think there's like two other like little stories that go along with those that I haven't read. But the main duologies I have read, and this one, I still think the Blade Smith duology is probably my favorite just because of the neurodivergent rep, but story wise, these two are probably my favorite. And yeah, I absolutely love it. There's a dog in the first one, which is fun. But with the food element, like that really fit Sherlock, and he thinks he's kind of a king of the house. So that was fun. And then we also have the second one, which follows her older sister. And so it starts, she gets the letter that her sister's marrying. Obviously romance, that's gonna happen, but yeah. And so it starts from that kind of point and goes forward. And she's married to a wealthy elderly duke, I think. And so then his grandson comes into the picture, and as far as she knew, he had no heirs. And so she's trying to figure out who this guy is. Like, is he legit? Like, and how to keep, she like suffered married to this old, lecherous old man, for months. And so she's like, I'm not giving up without a fight. But he has a secret himself, and I really like that kind of mystery aspect. And the thing with this one, like obviously, like the first one, he's trying to be assassinated. Loving her puts him at risk and such, and so it felt a little more high stakes. Where this one, there's definitely moments, like there's still that like little bit of darkness and such, and there's moments, but just the way their relationship progressed, there's still a big moment at the end, like all romances typically have. But just kind of the way things progressed, it really felt kind of more natural and less high stakes, I guess. And yeah, I just really liked how their relationship progressed, and I liked um the characters themselves a little bit more. But I probably like the setting of the first one better. But yeah, I absolutely loved both of these. I ate them up. I love the movie Ever After with Drew Barrymore. And I was saying, like, this one had moments where it almost felt like that, only like a darker version. It obviously wasn't that, but at one point she says that, you're my match or whatever, and that just reminded me of a line from that movie. And then there's also one scene in both books. There's a quote from Damon Salvatore from the Vampire Diaries. And in this one, there is a scene where it's like boxing. And that just reminded me of one episode of the Vampire Diaries. But yeah, I absolutely loved both of these. Probably top reads of the month, honestly. There's so many good ones. It's going to be really hard to choose this month. But that is that. And I also actually finished on Friday the 13th. I did finish Monstrilio by Gerardo Simano Cordova. This is the book my sister sent me. And again, so weird. It's literary horror. It deals with like grief and relationships and kind of acceptance as well. Because she grows this piece of her son's lung. She loses her son and takes a piece of his lung and nurtures it, and it grows into this monster. And so each member of the family kind of have a different view on, accepting him as he is versus, expecting better of him, kind of comparing him to the son that died, and things like that. Like, there's a lot of depth in here, and I absolutely adored this. My sister loved it. And yeah, so I did read that as well, so I just wanted to mention that. But next up is Sherlock's trying to climb in a bookshelf. Sherlock. And so next I'm going to be reading Hooked by Emily McIntire, and this was Little Watson's pick, so as soon as I'm done with that. And this one is for lore and I think it's a retelling because it's kind of a retelling of Peter Pan. And so yeah, I'm gonna be jumping into this, and then we'll be back once I get it read, and I'll talk about Little Watson, and then talk about this book. All right, it is the morning of Monday the 16th. I read Hooked by Emily McIntire all day yesterday, and I did finish this, and I'll talk about my thoughts on that in a second. But first, we have Little Watson. This was his pick. And so I got him obviously at the same time as Sherlock. They're not litter mates. He's about 2 months younger than Sherlock is, but we got them at the same time. As I mentioned in the last clip, Sherlock was sitting there all prim and proper, and he was like climbing the kennel, because how they had a lot of the cats were in covered dog kennels. And he was literally like climbing the chain link like on the roof and such. So he was a bit crazy. But he is definitely probably personality wise one of the best cats in the house. I mean, there's only three, but personality wise, like I think he has the best personality. He is a little bit skittish sometimes. Um, so like yesterday I was taking the pictures, you saw a picture at the beginning of this clip, and I got the picture taken, but then when he went to go leave the room, the dogs were there and he got nervous and he ran underneath the bed and was just kind of hiding under the bed. Um, Anytime if we're gonna do like anything with them, he's the hardest to kind of catch. But he's pretty good. Like I've been working with them, and so like I meow, and then come and they'll get pets and such. So I don't always just grab them. And so like today I caught him just by meowing. But as he's gotten older, he definitely has gotten a lot more affectionate. Like he's seeking out cuddles and such, which he used to never do. Not with me anyway. He would do it with my husband, and he was my husband's pick. His biggest vice is he is a clawer. And so like, and he doesn't just claw appropriate things that we provide. And so like my husband's computer chair, he's destroyed. But other than that, he's really good. He is our little hunter. So out of all the cats, he's the one that hunts. He's very playful also. He asks to play laser. Like he'll mew and mew and mew until you play laser with him. And he is, out of all the cats, he's the one that if there's a bug or something, he's the one that's gonna hunt it. So he is our little hunter as well. He did get out one time and spent the night outside. And at that time he wasn't very cuddly, and I didn't even realize he was gone because he never cuddles me and I never hardly saw him. And so I didn't even realize he was gone, but the dogs were like freaking out at the house because we're kind of on a foundation and there's like a crawl space underneath. The dogs were freaking out, and yeah, it was little Watson, so he had an adventure. But yeah, he's my little buddy lately. Like he's just very affectionate nowadays and just wants cuddles and pets, and but he's still a little bit skittish. So, but he is very small compared to the other two. He's only like 7 pounds, I want to say. But yeah, I was kind of saying like he picked Hook, and because this is kind of a Peter Pan, in the beginning it's like very in bold letters, like this is not a retelling, it's a fractured fairy tale. And I'm like, it's a reimagining because it doesn't really follow any plot points. It just has like different pieces. Like the crocodile is his uncle's croc skin boots. His uncle had like a time watch that tick tick tick, and he would abuse him and such. And so he has like trauma and PTSD from those things. And then, obviously the names and whatnot. And then because they're like crime lords, the pixie dust is drugs. And so, but I said, it kind of fit little Watson because he is so little and he is so playful. So he kind of has kitten energy, like never growing up. Um, but it also kind of fit because he is our little hunter and he is a little skittish, and you do see that in James as well. So but yeah, I'm gonna keep holding him because I don't want him to go under the bed. I don't want to have to try to get him out again. I'm gonna keep holding him while I talk about this book. I did enjoy it. um overall, like, kind of the different, like, because it is a dark romance and kind of like, especially with Wendy, her kind of kinks and such aren't necessarily my thing. So, it's fine. I don't mind reading about things that aren't necessarily my thing. And it did seem to work for the characters. And like James, I never really liked him. Obviously he's a crime lord, like he tortures people, murders them. Um, and so yeah, I never really liked him, but it made sense for him. So I don't mind reading unlikable characters if it makes sense for the characters. Wendy, I did like her character. She kind of has always been kind of just wants to please, and you know, she loves her father, but her father has grown more distant. Like when she was young, they were really close, but he's grown more and more distant as she gets older, and she's always just tried to, do what was expected, fit in. And so you kind of see her growth away from that, and kind of coming more into her own. And I like kind of how the her ending played out in this. I don't want to give anything away, but you do see that growth, especially with the ending, which I really, really enjoyed. But yeah, James himself, like, you know, he has he's not so completely off-putting. Like he doesn't really have redeeming qualities per se. Like there's a few that's like okay, like I guess that's kind of redeeming, but he doesn't really have redeeming qualities. Like normally when you have kind of a darker character, there's something redeeming about them, and that's why you can kind of root for them. I won't say that's the case in this one, but you do see like why, like kind of how he came to be who he is, I guess. And so he felt believable. Like, he felt like a believable character, even if he's unlikable. Um, I did like Wendy, and she has a brother, John. Not two brothers. The way Michael kind of comes into it is with the last name. Um, but she does have uh, her brother, and they're very close. And I will say, like, I enjoyed the story, the plot lines throughout. Like, he's obviously kind of a bigwig, and then Peter Michael come into this town, and there's kind of a little bit of a power struggle and such. And he's trying to figure out, like, what's happening within his ranks. But he's so focused on one area that he kind of misses. And to me, it's like it was a little naive, and that didn't really fit the character. I did end up giving this 4 stars, instead of 5, and that was part of it. Like just kind of his focus and such. Like he's supposed to be this big bad dude, and just kind of where he was focused didn't really fit at all. And so do you hear well, baby? So that was part of it, and kind of just the way he was at the end didn't really seem like it just seemed like he wasn't as big and bad, as he was being portrayed throughout. And I do like I said, kind of how Wendy's part took place, but I wish that he still had kind of that strength and such. And maybe, like reflecting on it, like maybe part of it was to kind of, bring him down a notch, I guess. But yeah, it's just like he seems like an intelligent guy, so for him to not even think to look in this other direction, um, is kind of like, come on, that's not very believable. But yeah, overall, I did enjoy it. I liked the story. The writing was super easy to get into. Like I said, I didn't really like, I had moments where my mind kind of wandered or I was doing other things and such. But for the most part, like a lot of times during the day, my mind wanders a lot. So I'll only read a couple pages, my mind will kind of wander. Where this one, I was reading good chunks at a time before my mind wandered, or I would go do something else, take a break. I was reading good chunks, and it was really easy to get into. And like we were watching, there's a show on Amazon Prime called From, and we've been watching that, and I've been really into it. So when we watch that, it's harder for me to read because I'm really into the show. But in this case, I was more into the book than the show. And so like it's really good writing. Like I enjoyed the writing. There's just kind of the way the ending played out was a little blah for me, and it didn't really feel as true to the characters. But I did like this. I did give it a 4 stars, and I do definitely want to continue the series. So next up is Nidra's pick, and that is Finlay Donovan Rolls the Dice by Elle Cosimano. This is the 4th in the Finlay Donovan series. Excuse me. I did get this back in March and I haven't read it yet. So I'm really excited to read this, especially with the last few. We had Hooked, which is darker, the shadows between us and the darkness within us. While YA were still a little bit darker, and then Priest was obviously a little bit darker. So I'm looking forward to something light and fun to dive into today. Really looking forward. All I have today is I'm going to be doing laundry. And so I don't have a lot of other things that I'm going to be working on or anything like this. So I could just dive into this. I am still working on the Heartland series, but I didn't read yesterday at all, and I am a little bit behind on that. So I definitely, this morning, I'm going to read the Heartland series. And then I also have my plans for this week, because now it's Monday, and I was hoping to finish, these books within a week, but I still have 2 left. And so I think I'm going to start, I had some children's books planned for this week along with some others. So I think while I'm finishing up the last 2 books for this video, I'm going to work on my children's books as well. So I'll probably, read Heartland, and then probably dive into one of the children's books before I actually dive into this. So I probably won't finish that at all until tomorrow, and then I'll jump back on and then talk about the last book. But that's it for the moment. I'm going to go let little Watson be free again. He's such a sweetheart. And yeah, I'll be back in just a moment with Nidra, and so you guys can meet her and give you my thoughts on the 4th Finlay Donovan book. Alright, it is now Thursday the 19th, and we have Nidra here. I did finish Finlay Donovan Rolls the Dice last night, but I was really tired and just decided to wait till today to talk about it. I did also start the last book for this video, which was Ink Blood Sister Scribe by Emma Torzs. And so yeah, I have started that, but I'm only like 30 pages in. But let me talk about Nidra. Come here, Ninas. Get her back up here. She's sniffing around. So this is Nidra. She is 6 years old. She's going to lay down, which is fine. She is 6 years old, and she's actually my service dog. So I am autistic, and I didn't get her specifically for service dog purposes. The reason I ended up getting her was when my husband and I married, he could not sleep with the dogs in the bed. He really struggled with that, and of course they all wanted to lay on his side of the bed and such, and so we kind of compromised, and I was like, I'll get a smaller dog and it'll be a puppy and I'll teach it to just stay on my side of the bed, because I was really struggling at the time. Like it was bad, and so we got her, and she was trained to lay right up next to me, and then it helps with my insomnia, because if I'm having trouble falling asleep, if I have some different podcasts and movies I'll put on specifically if I'm having trouble falling asleep, but I'll also put my hand on her chest and just get into the rhythm of her breathing and such, so that helps. But it also helps regulate me as well when I'm sleeping. When I didn't have her, I would wake up feeling like I couldn't breathe, gasping for breath, and such, and now that I have her, that doesn't happen anymore. And then I did kind of train her, like I was like, if I ever need to travel, I need her trained as a service dog, but I never trained her past the point of pet-friendly places. I did all the training up to that point, and I was really struggling with the grocery store. And so my husband's like, just take her, like, let her help you. And so I did start taking her for that as well. She helps ground me when we're at the store, and then she also acts as a barrier. I have really bad proprioception, but having her at my feet really helps with that, because I know where she is. It's just the rest of my body, and so I would really have a hard time if I needed to pass people and such, and I would just avoid going past people, and so I wouldn't get things I needed because I would be avoiding that, and so she's really helped with that as well. And yeah, she's great. She's so smart, so playful, and we named her Nidra because that's the Hindi goddess of sleep. And she tells us when it's bedtime, and she is very upset if we don't listen to her. Like, it is bedtime. I'm telling you it's bedtime. Let's go to bed. And we're really bad about not listening to her and going to bed later than we want to. But I will say her pick kind of fits her personality in the fact that, Finlay Donovan is a mom, and she takes care of business, which Nidra definitely does, but there's also kind of like this playful side to Finlay as well, which I think fits Nidra very well. So yeah, I read this. At first I was like, there's so many characters, and it has been a little while since I've read the others, and at this point, 4th book in the series, there's just a lot of characters. I think the author did a good job, though, giving you enough of a little hint as to who they were, what their role was, without you having to, like, fully remember the other books. So I think she did a good job of that, but that kind of took me a minute because there was a lot of characters. It is over the top, which they all are, but this one seemed a little less believable in some instance. But they're just so much fun. Like, it makes it really easy to suspend your disbelief and just go with the flow. And yeah, once I got into the story, I really enjoyed it. I think this one's actually my favorite of the series because it does take place in Atlantic City. You still have all the same characters, like the whole crew basically ends up coming along. Initially, it's just going to be her and Vero to go find Vero's friend and this car, which if you haven't read the others, you don't know what I'm talking about, but if you have, you do. And so initially it's going to be them, and they're like, it's a girls' trip, and we're taking the kids. And then Steven's like, you can't take the kids, which Steven is her ex-husband, and he's like, you can't take the kids unless I approve it, so I'm going with you. And then her mom ends up coming along, and then the police, because they're investigating things, like the whole police force, including her sister, ends up there as well. So you just have kind of the whole crew, and it's a lot of fun. There is this dachshund, that dog that's part of it. There's a Rottweiler that is in there a moment, but the dachshund plays a big part of it, and I absolutely loved him. His name's Kevin Bacon, and I loved his role in the whole story. Yeah, it was just a really good time, and it was perfect after those darker reads that I had. This one was perfect. It wasn't part of Aurelium or anything like that, but I've had this book since March. I got it on our Vegas trip, and so it's been, sitting there, and I have really wanted to read it. So I'm really glad Nidra picked it, so it gave me the motivation to get it done. Otherwise, this one would have gone on the back burner and probably not have gotten read this month. So yeah, had a good time. I ended up giving it 5 stars, and like I said, I do think it's my favorite of the series. I will say the way it ended kind of wrapped up the series nicely, and I honestly wish they had left it there. There's supposed to be another book coming out, and at the very, very end, there's just one little spot that sets up for the next book. And honestly, the way everything wrapped up, this would have been a perfect ending, and I think I'm probably going to end the series here. I don't think I'm going to continue it as much fun as they are. I also want a never-ending series. And that's one of my biggest complaints about these cozy mystery series, is that they just kind of go on and on and on, and you never see an end with them. And honestly, where this one ended as far as the beginning plot of the series, I think this was a good ending. So I'm not planning on continuing the series. I don't think I'll enjoy it as much going forward, based on kind of where it left off and what's coming. I personally don't think I'm going to enjoy it as much. It's kind of separate from the events of these first 4 books, as far as I can tell. Obviously, maybe she'll tie it in, but I think this was a good ending to the series, and kind of wrapped up everything that was taking place to this point very nicely. And so this is where I'm going to end it. I'm not planning on continuing the series. I I'm not a big cozy mystery person anyway. I have really enjoyed Finlay herself and the humor and such in here, but yeah, I don't think I'll really enjoy it all that much going forward, with the way things left off here. And so I'm going to end it here, but there is supposed to be another book coming out. I didn't see a date of when, but it's mute point for me. Like I said, I don't want a series that just keeps going on and on and on and on. So that's kind of where I am with that. And like I said, I have already started this one. I only read about 30 pages. I think it's just over 400 pages. So I'm going to run into town real quick. It's about 11:30 right now. And so then I'll tuck into this afternoon / evening, and we'll just see how far I can get through this. I do really need to get some more Aurelian reads done. I'm still, of course, working on my Heartland books, so there's those as well. And the time is winding down, so we'll just see how it goes. But I will check back in with you with Anya, who is the last dog, and with the last book, and that way I can hopefully get this up this coming Monday. So I'll be right back. All right, so it is the afternoon of Saturday, September 21st, and we did finish Inkblood Sister Scribe last night, but we went into town this morning, and so I haven't had a chance to talk about it yet. But first, let's talk about Anya, the last pup here. So Anya is 4 years old. We actually got her after my old dog Shunka passed away. Shunka I had since I was a teenager and then into my 30s, so that was really, really hard to lose her. And we decided we had Boo Boo and Marley, who are very similar and close in age, but then we had Nidra, and I was like, I would like to get another dog, so Nidra has a pair. So when Shunka and Marley, or not Shunka and Marley, Boo Boo and Marley pass away, she has a dog that's closer in her age instead of having like the cycle of dogs that have a bigger age gap. So I was kind of keeping my eye out and came across an ad for puppies, and that's how we got Anya. She came from a horrible situation. It wasn't really a backyard breeder situation because she wasn't selling the puppy. She wasn't trying to make money. It was just a really, really irresponsible owner. And so she had a mom and two of the mom's puppies, and the mom and one of the puppies both ended up having a litter of puppies at the same time, which is where Ani came from. And so there was just a ton of puppies. Didn't know which puppies belonged to which mom, anything like that. She also had a cat that had just had kittens and such, and the puppies were outside. It had been raining, so it was really muddy and wet, and they were just wet and gross, and they were all covered in fleas, which was not fun at all. So when we got Ani home, we ended up spending hours getting these fleas off of her. It was horrible. And yeah, she's my little sweetheart. She is very, very anxious. She's panting right now because we went to town and we just got back a little while ago. And it takes her a little while to calm down after we leave her. She's really good. Like, she doesn't do anything, but she does get a little bit worked up, like you left me. But she's my little sweetheart. Like, if you're upset, if you sneeze or you cough, she gets very worried about you, and she tends to always have a stuffy in her mouth when she's anxious. And so she'll grab a stuffy and she'll bring it to you and be like, "Are you okay?" So very, very sweet. She does very vocal, so she roos a lot, generally with a stuffy in her mouth. And then she's just kind of anxious. She, like, the black animals, so Boo Boo and Sherlock and Watson, if they move at all and it's dark, she's barking at them. If we pause and we're standing kind of in a different way, like if I'm brushing my teeth and I pause, she'll bark at me. Like, and she's lived with us, she's 4 years old now. She's lived with us since she was like 8 weeks. So yeah, she does definitely get a little anxious, and she barks first and then kind of figures it out second. But super, super sweet. Absolutely love her. She hates when I brush my teeth. At night when I brush my teeth, I'll come and give her a big smooch on her nose because she hates it. And so I'll tell her, "I need to brush my teeth just for you," and I'll give her a big smooch on her nose. So, but she's a sweetheart. Her and Nina's play a lot, and Nina's always grabs her scruff down here, like he'll gizzard, and we always tell Dinas, go for the throat, and she'll grab right here, or she'll pick on her paws, like she'll nip at her paws and such. And Ani just lays there and lets her go at it, like super sweet. When they play, she makes sure she self handicaps really well, and so she'll lay down and she'll, they'll jaw spar and such. But super sweet, like the best baby ever, even though she has her anxiety issues, which actually fit really well for this one since she chose this one. Not only that sisterly aspect, since her and Nina are big sis, little sis energy, but also that anxiety, because in this one you have the older sister Esther, who's kind of on the run and she has to move every year. And so she obviously has anxiety about that. And then the younger sister Joanna has a lot of anxiety making sure she's home each night to put the wards up and protect these books that her father collects. So basically you have the two sisters in this one. They are half sisters, and the magic system in this one, it's blood magic, but it's through books. And so a scribe is able to use their blood as ink and write these spells in books, and then anybody can activate that spell with their blood, other than scribes, because scribes aren't able to. Magic doesn't work on them. And so anybody else though can use their blood and read the spell and activate it, essentially. And so their father, the two sisters' father, collects these books. He ends up dying from one of the books. And so Joanna is there and she keeps putting up the wards and such because there's somebody searching for these books. And then Esther is on the run. She has to move each year. Her dad told her because magic doesn't work on her that the family is at risk if she stays put, but she needs to move each year or she could be found and then their family can be found. And so she's always constantly on the run. And so in the beginning, Esther is at an Antarctic like station, and she's living there as an electrician. And then Joanna obviously is still at home. You have Joanna's mom that plays a part in this, and then obviously their dad has passed away. And then you also have a third point of view from Nicholas, and his family also has like this big library of books, and so he's kind of locked down for his own safety and such. And so it's going back and forth between those three viewpoints, and that's where it kind of got rough for me. It doesn't really pick up until like the last 150 pages. This is a 400-page book, and it really doesn't pick up till the last 150 pages, and it's very, very long-winded. And because of that, like anytime something interesting would happen, it would change viewpoints, and you have to go through two other viewpoints before you kind of come back around. And because it's long-winded as well, the book really lost momentum. And so each time that happened, I would kind of lose my focus and my interest in the book a little bit. And so I only ended up giving this one 4 stars because of that. But otherwise, I really like the characters. I thought the author did a really good job. These characters are very unique, have great personalities, and really stand out. I did like the plot of the story, but like I said, it's just the writing itself. It was like really hard to stay focused because every time something interesting happened, it would take so long to get there because it's long-winded, and then once it did happen, it would switch over to a different viewpoint, and yeah, it just lost momentum. But those last 150 pages though, I really, really enjoyed. All the storylines kind of come together, and it's really actually interesting. I will say the twist I did see coming. It didn't necessarily ruin the story for me, but I know that can ruin the story for some people. But I was just kind of relieved once all the storylines came together and things got a little bit more interesting. So yeah, I didn't hate this, didn't fully love it. Like I said, I did give it 4 stars, so I did enjoy it. It was a bit of a struggle, the first part of it. But because of the characters, I think that's what ended up giving it 4 stars for me instead of 3 stars. But the writing was a little rough. I will say, if you're interested in this, keep in mind it is blood magic, so I know that can be triggering for some people. I also like there was a mirror magic element, which I really enjoyed as well. I almost wish the sisters had been twins, because that would have been really cool with the mirror magic to have like mirror twins. She could have really played off that, but the sisters aren't. Esther's like 2.5 years older than Joanna. But yeah, I did enjoy it. Like I said, the twists were pretty obvious, but still enjoyable, this plot line and everything. But the characters really, really stood out for me. And yeah, that's all. I'm not gonna pick up the books I read, but that was 8 of them. I did end up going in extra week over, but I had a really good time with these. I think what I got, the majority were 4 or 5 stars, and then I know I gave at least one of them 3 stars. I can't remember right now, and I'm not gonna dig them out again. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing this. I love having the pets pick. I always enjoy that, and having them pick from books I was super excited about really, really worked. So I had a great time for my whole birthday week, and then like I said, I finished up these last 2 over this last week. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Let me know if you've read any of these, if you're interested in reading any of these, a book you're really excited that you have coming up, you're excited for that you have coming up. I would love to know down in the comments below. If you don't know what to comment and you just want to let me know you were here and you're supporting me, you can either leave a rabbit or any type of animal emoji, or since this was my birthday vlog, you could go ahead and leave a birthday emoji as well. Just let me know you were here and you're supporting the channel. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys here. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.